Okay, well, my name is Olga Wilhelmi, and together with Hannah Brankert-Smith, also from NCAR, we're introducing the session on innovation and disaster risk assessments in current and future climates. So as we heard earlier, hurricanes, storms, droughts, floods have been part of human lives for many, many years because they are a natural, normal part of climate. But with projected changes in global climate, we may see different patterns in those climate and weather-related hazards. And that's something we need to be prepared for. We may see increased both intensity and frequency in heat waves events, tropical cyclones, extreme precipitation events. In some regions, we may see changes in spatial and temporal patterns, for example, droughts. And also, some areas may experience new hazardous events that they haven't experienced before. And in some situations, the impacts may be even more severe. So it's important for us to understand the physical properties of those events, but equally important to understand and characterize the social system, the societal vulnerability, the product of hazard and vulnerability, that's what makes a disaster. And if you look at the data on vulnerabilities, the cost of natural disasters is increasing, which indicates the growing vulnerability of society to those events. So we really need to look at the vulnerability from all its elements, including exposure, sensitivity, and adaptive capacity. With climate change, more people may be exposed to extreme events, and also given the population growth and land use practices and urbanization patterns, more people may experience those events in urban areas as well. Non-climatic factors such as aging, poverty, migration, health conditions affect sensitivity, the degree to which a system can be harmed by climate-related stressors. In adaptive capacity, that's the one that's really difficult to quantify and characterize. The capacity of the system to change its behaviors in order to better cope with anticipated stressors or climate change. And that's the work that we will be discussing tomorrow as well. So it's a challenge to put together all this information about the physical, social system, current and future, but we really need to look at this from comprehensive ways so the risk assessments can be systemic, integrated, and most importantly, stakeholder-driven. The technological innovations that happened in the last several decades allow us to measure risk and especially bridge together some of the indices, both on social vulnerability and hazards. Innovations in remote sensing and GIS technology, in particular coupling GIS with atmospheric models, weather and climate models, allow us to better map and visualize whether the risk areas are, who is at risk, and where we can do more targeted interventions. And of course, modeling risks, that's the next important big area. How can we take the conditions that we understand and bring climate change scenario, for example, sea level rise, so we can understand the potential impacts and vulnerabilities. And finally, if we do it right, we can also manage risks effectively, more effectively, either through short-term response strategies or long-term adaptation measures, so the impacts of future disasters may be reduced. The users and the users of those risk assessments determine the scale, and from local to global. And from our experience, some combination of top-down, of bottom-up assessments are very effective because they can not only bring conditions about the household level, about the local environments together, and better understand the local and cultural aspects, for example, as it's done at the local level assessments, but also put together a bigger picture, and we can start looking at intercomparison of different municipal or regional types assessments, compare case studies for more systemic approach, for more comprehensive understanding where the risks are. And finally, once we do national and global assessments, those are the assessments that most closely match the scale of global climate models. And we can look at the distribution of global hazards and hotspots and where those will evolve in the future. This is a presentation that we will have tomorrow. We will have great examples of innovation from local level assessments to regional to global scales. And we will discuss another interesting question that requires a lot of innovation. How do we link those scales together so we can put this very rich understanding of local culture in a big picture of climate change and national policies? And finally, the presenters also will address another question that we think is important for our panel, which is how do we take all this innovation that's been in theory, in methods, in technology, and see if those risk assessments do lead to risk reduction. That's what actually we're trying to do, reduce impacts and reduce risk. So that's what this session will be covering tomorrow. And we invite you to come to the session at 4 o'clock.